Welcome, fight fans, again to the TitleFight.com roundtable. On the line, Steve Gallegos and Gordie Tamayo here. Going to touch base on last weekend's bout featuring Floyd Mayweather on the main event facing Maidana. I had a lot of heated discussion going back and forth this week on this fight and just kind of mapping out possibly what's going to be next for Floyd and for some of these other guys that are going for a shot at the crown here as well. Let's go back a little bit of ways though, and touch base on one of the fights on the card here with Adrian Broner facing Carlos Molina. Now, as you remember, Adrian Broner was coming off of a disappointing defeat at the hands of Maidana, who landed, the Mayweather sweepstakes lotto here for the main event. And what was supposed to be kind of a coming out party for Adrian Broner before he got shocked by the hard-hitting Maidana. Coming back in this fight against Molina here was supposed to, in some way, shape, or form, give him some shine and kind of showcase his skills and showing that he was back after, a short layoff there. Steve, what was your take on how Broner came back to the ring and how he performed against Molina?
Well, it wasn't a very good performance. He did what he had to do to win. He was in with a fighter that obviously wasn't going to hurt him, even though Molina did have some success earlier on. He was pretty much tailor-made for Broner, more of a safe comeback fight. And he didn't do much, Basically, he's back to no improvements that he made since the Maidana fight. He's still very tentative, is not as active as he should be. Before he came up to welterweight, when he was still fighting at a lightweight, he was very active, doing a great amount of punches. Just went in there and just did business. He's just too tentative these days. Even ever since the Gavin Reese fight, and of course with Malignaggi, he gets hit way too much and is not active enough. And basically, his brash personality and filling this role is the reason why he's still marketable, because he's the villain and he has no problem being the villain, and he is he's making less and less fans and friends with the way he's been acting.
Yeah, he made some pretty harsh comments that have been circulating around what he's lashing out against Broner for his words, or choice of words, I should say. Nothing that he hasn't said in the past before, maybe just the way he worded it. But, that's kind of spurred some pretty big heat his way here. With as much as he's talking, though, as you kind of stated there, Steve, a lot of people considered him, the next person to overtake the throne after Floyd's gone, but it seems that he is far from that. And what was supposed to, as I said, showcase himself against Molina, he came up really short. So a lot of question marks still remaining with him, or whether, they're just going to be milking him for as much as they can before, either he's just done and out, or they run out of sea-level opponents to put him up against with. So I guess we'll see with Broner there. Moving forward on that card, the co-feature on the fight card here, which was slated to be probably the most entertaining fight out of the whole card here. Didn't really live up to that hype, but nonetheless, it was an interesting bout that was supposed to slate the winner of these two for a possible showdown with Floyd. And that was Khan versus Collazo. Now, Collazo coming off against that upset defeat against Victor Ortiz, and Khan coming off of a couple lackluster performances in his previous couple outings here, but nonetheless has been on the track back to the elite performance level here. And he showed some good things, he showed some not so good things. We've seen a lot of holding from Khan, which frustrated Collazo immensely, kind of prohibited him from being able to execute any kind of a game plan that he had, and what we ended up seeing was a one-sided decision for Khan. What you seen over that weekend here, Steve, with Khan, is that enough to showcase what his skill level is at, as far as, his speed that he came through with his boxing IQ, and whether or not that would be something viable to give Floyd a run for his money? Or what'd you think?
Well, it was a lot better than what I expected it to be. The jury was still out on whether or not Khan was still at the elite level that he was before he lost to Danny Garcia. I thought he looked very good in this fight. He boxed very well. Forget the whole holding and clinching thing. He boxed very well. He had Collazo hurt many times throughout the fight, dropped him 3 times, and boxed beautifully, in my opinion. And so, I think he did make a case to fight Floyd Mayweather. I think he probably won a lot of fans back probably in the back. He's back in the good graces of a lot of his so-called critics, including mine. So it's unfortunate that Floyd's next fight is in September, and of course, with his commitment to Ramadan, that fight's not going to happen this year. So, best case scenario is maybe for Khan to fight, one more time this year, probably maybe in probably after Ramadan is over, and then possibly get a shot at Floyd in May.
Well, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see if that even will play out there. I mean, there's obviously a whole lineup of people that would like a crack at Floyd, and Khan's just the latest one making a case for it. Although, from a marketing standpoint, maybe what he's looking for next. However, the outcome of the main event kind of put a little bit of a twist into the whole predictions from many people of what's going to take place here coming up for Floyd's next bout. Marcos Maidana, who was by a large margin here considered a big underdog leading up into this fight. What we seen was a very aggressive, very hungry Maidana come out from the gate, really aggressive against Floyd, and we've seen a side of Floyd that we hadn't seen for quite a while, where he was actually losing rounds, and he was actually losing back-to-back rounds, at least on the earlier part of the half of the bout here. Steve, give me your breakdown. I know you got a chance to watch it again. Initially, your opinion was that Floyd won by a large margin here, maybe as large as what one of the judges scored at 117-111, I believe it was. Going back and seeing it again, what's your opinion?
Okay, when I first saw it on Saturday, it appeared that Floyd dominated the majority of the fight. I thought maybe Maidana won a couple of rounds, a few close ones, but I still think Floyd, did enough to win. So when 117-111 was announced, I did not disagree with that. I thought it was a pretty spot-on score. And of course, opinions varied. A lot of people, and a lot of the experts, disagreed with that and thought it was a much closer fight. So I went back and watched it again today and scored it round by round, and had it 115-113 for Mayweather. And I gave Maidana the first 5 rounds. He fought very well, very aggressively, got him on the ropes. Initially, I thought that a lot of them clubbing shots, weren't landing, but some of them were, and he was landing some pretty good flush shots. Plus, his jab was very underrated in this fight. He used it very well, and that's what won him some rounds, because it set up everything else. In order to be successful against Floyd Mayweather, you got to have a good jab. That's how De La Hoya, Zav Judah, and Cotto, they all had success against Floyd Mayweather by using that jab, but once you abandon it, then it becomes a different fight. So, a few of the first 5 rounds were close, but as Max Kellerman said, you got to think about who would you rather have been in those rounds, and I would rather have been Maidana. So first 5 rounds definitely dominated by Maidana. The 6th round is when Floyd turned it up, started using that jab, keeping the fight in the center of the ring for the most part, landing shots, good shots. Accuracy was incredible. As you can see, he landed 54% of his shots on Maidana. If you're going to land 54%, you're dominant. So from round 6 on, it was all Floyd Mayweather. The championship rounds were a little bit more closer than what the previous rounds were, but I still would rather have been Floyd in those rounds. And Maidana seemed to maybe have punched himself out, with how aggressive as he was. And of course, he wasn't using that jab after the 6th round, so that made a big difference too. I do not think the fight was by any means a robbery. I think Floyd did what he needed to do. He adapted very well. That's one thing they should give Floyd credit for. Not the fact that he's always been so dominant. Champions, what a true champion is made of is how he responds to adversity, how he adapts to difficult situations. Floyd did that the other night, so I think he wasn't given as much credit as he should have, just because he was, dominated at certain points in the fight. Doesn't mean you have to start saying, oh, he's starting to be shot. No, that's not what it's about. It's about adapting, because not all fights are going to be the same. It's what you do and how you respond to certain situations which makes you a champion. So that's why I consider Floyd, one of the greatest of all time, if not the greatest, because he's so smart, he adapted very well, and he won the fight convincingly, in my opinion.
Sure. Well, that's another topic in and of itself there. I mean, going back, you made a good point there, though, about people are used to seeing him win so convincingly than when it's, a fight where you have some close rounds, you get some harsh criticism coming his way. I mean, he's at the top of the food chain there. It's what's expected. So I guess that's just what comes with the territory there. Maidana screaming, robbery, a lot of people around there as well. I mean, that's based on perception as well. I actually scored it a draw myself, and thought it was a really close fight. It was entertaining. I'd love to watch it that way. I had questions whether or not it was going that way based on Floyd wanting to make it that way, as he said. He wanted to give what the fans what they wanted, and he made it into, a close fight where, they were actually going at it like that for some of those rounds that were very, very close. Not sure if I buy that. Nonetheless, great, entertaining fight. They already talked about a rematch right away, right after the bout there. Maidana in his corner were already talking about a rematch in place, and Schaefer was very, very quick to answer back, let's do it. Got that guy right there on the end of one option for Floyd. We got Khan coming in, wanting to shop, which, like you said, probably won't happen in September, though. We got Lara coming up and facing Canelo, who he's been, clamoring at the bit for a shot at Floyd as well, if he can get past Canelo as well. What do you see taking place next here, Steve? I mean, the biggest money on the table, would that be the rematch with Maidana, most lucrative for him and most obvious? Maybe he'll come back and choose just a box instead, the majority of the fight. What do you think?
Well, at first I didn't think that a rematch, should take place. I tend to agree with it more now. In fact, that as I got to view it again, it was a much closer fight. Maidana gave a good account of himself. The public, would want to see it because, they feel that Floyd was being very close to being beaten. So I think it will happen again in September. I would prefer, I would love to see Mayweather fight Khan based on the way Khan fought and the way and how Khan's speed and his jab is going to be make an interesting match with Floyd, because he can pretty much match him, in both areas. And we'll see. I think that Khan would give Mayweather a lot of problems, but it's not something that we're going to. Unfortunately, it's not something we're going to see by the end of this year. Some of the other top fighters, at 140 and 147 pounds, are not going to fight Floyd. They're not ready for Floyd, and plus, Golden Boy is not ready to match their superstars against Mayweather next. They're not going to throw Keith Thurman in there with Floyd. They're not going to throw Danny Garcia in there with him either. So the best option right now for the public and for Floyd is a rematch with Maidana. He'll do a lot better, numbers-wise the second time around. I don't think the fight's going to be as close this next time, because Floyd can say that he wanted to make it a better fight for the fans, but I think in them first 5 rounds, something was going on. He may have came into the ring cold. Maybe he had a lot on his mind, but he was going through a lot during this time. As you see, Roger Mayweather had absolutely nothing to do with his training camp, and I know that had to have some sort of effect on him, because he's always used to having Roger there in some way, shape, or form. Plus, the outside problems, issues with his ex-fiancée and all. And of course, we're all human. He's human.
Sure.
And, people get distracted at times. And of course, he's in there with a great fighter, Maidana. And he was taking some shots, but he adapted. He was able to, to weather the storm and finish very strongly. People need to realize at the end of that fight, Floyd was very dominant. Mm-hmm. So the second time around, I think he'll have a much better training camp, less distractions, come in the ring a lot more confident, and he'll dominate. He'll dominate the second fight probably with ease.
Yeah, I got to agree with you on that there. I mean, and you're right. I mean, I think he does deserve some credit for coming back and in the back half of the fight and just coming through and picking up steam and more or less dominating there. Kind of what we've seen with J. Leon Love, which we didn't get to touch base with him on, but I was fairly impressed with his ability to come back and dominate leading into the later part of the rounds as well. So props to Floyd on that one. So we'll see what happens. Floyd's always a hot topic anytime something goes on with him. This is just another one of the topics in the bucket here to pull out from. But moving forward, just want to give a little bit of light and shed a little bit of light on the upcoming bout this weekend here between two heavyweights. And Chris Arreola and Stiverne. These guys have been on a collision course for a minute here, and a lot of hype going around this fight. I'm excited for this one. Chris Arreola, as many people know, he's been getting a lot of slack in the past for just not being totally committed and dedicated to the sport. Been known for just blowing up in weight and not really caring about his health too much, just going in and fighting when he needs to fight and just not really caring what people say or think. Stiverne, on the other hand, has been a guy he is committed to his craft and to his career here, and recently shots have been fired about that as well. Going into this fight here, Steve, one of these guys is going to take home a belt and a crack at another world title here. What do you think is going to take place with this?
Well, it could go one of two ways. It can be an all-out action slugfest war, with whoever lands that big shot's going to take the other fighter out. That was pretty much the case, with Arreola and Seth Mitchell. Arreola got off first. It could be the case in this fight, but also Stiverne, very dedicated to his craft. It can be a chess match, and he can outbox Arreola. We just don't know. But I'm hoping for a slugfest. I'm hoping that they give the fans a really good heavyweight fight, which we have not seen a real good heavyweight slugfest in quite some time. As a matter of fact, I just wrote an article on what I thought was the last great heavyweight slugfest, between Derek Jefferson and Maurice Harris, and that was all the way back in 1999. Mm-hmm. I would like to see them rise to that similar of a level, and give them a true heavyweight championship fight, because, right now, fans, all of us, we're all tired of seeing the Klitschko just dominate one fighter over one fighter after another. Let's see some new blood. Let's see some real action now. And of course, the winner's going to get a crack at the Klitschko, get that that big money fight, chance to reclaim the true heavyweight championship. So a lot on the line for these two fighters. Whoever wins it, the victor goes the spoils.
Well, as Steve mentioned, we're going to be dropping another piece on the Forgotten Legends series here. We've been kind of taking another branch off of that series that we're doing with Forgotten Legends and Forgotten Classics. And as Steve mentioned there's one that's going to be dropped by the time anybody starts hearing this particular roundtable. You'll be having that up there and posted as well, so make sure you keep tabs on TheTitleFight.com on that particular column as well. And much love for everybody tuning in once again. We'll touch base with you again here shortly. Until next time.